San Francisco never really slept. It just dimmed its lights and waited for morning dot from the cracked window of her tiny apartment above Mission Street. Ava Brooks could see the city blinking in patches of gold and red, like a giant heartbeat refusing to slow down. Her own heartbeat, though, was a different story, fast, anxious, loud enough to drown the hum of traffic below. The fridge was almost empty again. The rent was 2 weeks late, and Eli, her 5-year-old son, had outgrown another pair of shoes. She sat at the small kitchen table, going through her emails, rejections, more rejections. She'd applied for nanny jobs, cleaning jobs, receptionist jobs, anything that didn't require a college degree she couldn't afford to finish. Then she saw it. Subject line: private childcare position, confidential employer. The pay made her blink. $5,000 a month. Live-in optional. Must be discreet and experienced with young children. She whispered, that can't be real. But the contact looked legitimate. A professional address, a recruitment agency she'd heard of. And then she saw the name at the bottom of the email, L. Hale her. Stomach dropped. There was no way. It couldn't be him. 6 years ago, Lucas Hale was everything she wasn't: rich, brilliant, reckless. They met in college, shared coffee and plans they couldn't afford, built castles in the air. Then one day he vanished. A family scandal, a sudden transfer, and a single text that broke her world. Don't look for me. He never came back. Until now, it seemed. The next morning, Ava dropped Eli at daycare, her stomach in knots. Be good, okay? She said, kneeling to fix his backpack. I'm always good, he said with a gap-toothed grin. She smiled, though her hands trembled. Love you, buddy. Love you more. She kissed his forehead, then hurried to catch the bus toward Pacific Heights. The side of San Francisco that looked like money had never been a problem. The address in the email led to a glass and stone house on a hill, overlooking the bay. Gates tall enough to keep the world out. Ava hesitated before pressing the buzzer. Her reflection in the metal gate looked like someone else, hair tied up, thrift store blazer too tight at the shoulders, cheap flats already soaked from the morning drizzle. Ms. Brooks. A voice came from the intercom, calm, low, and unmistakably familiar. She froze. Why, yes, she managed. The gate clicked open. Inside, the air smelled of cedar and sea salt. Ava's breath fogged against the wide glass windows that framed the ocean below. Then he appeared, taller than she remembered, sharper around the edges. Lucas Hale, now CEO of Hale Tech Industries, a name she'd seen in magazines she could never afford to buy. He looked at her for a long moment before speaking. Hello, Ava, her throat tightened. Mr. Hale, she said automatically. His lips twitched, the ghost of a smile. Still formal, I see. I didn't know. It was you, she said softly. He nodded. That's the point. Discretion. He led her through the living room, all clean lines, minimalist furniture, and the faint hum of silence that comes from people who can afford space. A small boy sat on the floor near the window, building towers from wooden blocks. Blonde hair, green eyes, maybe 4 years old. Lucas said, That's Ben, my son. Ava's heart skipped. She smiled gently. Hi, Ben. The boy looked up, cautious, then smiled shyly. Hi. Lucas gestured to the sofa. Let's sit. Ava tried to calm her breathing. You're looking for a nanny? He nodded. A live-in one, if possible. someone I can trust. Her eyes met his. You've built quite a life. He looked away. Something like that. He began asking questions about her childcare experience, first aid, schedule. His tone was professional, detached. But every time their hands brushed over a paper, Ava felt the static of the past. When the interview ended, she gathered her folder, ready to leave. "Lucas," she said before she could stop herself. "Why me?" He hesitated. "Because you're the only person I remember ever telling the truth to." She froze, staring at him. He cleared his throat, mask sliding back into place. "You'll hear from my assistant within 24 hours. Outside, the wind carried the smell of salt and rain. Ava walked down the hill, her heart thudding against her ribs. He had a son. He was rich, untouchable, everything she'd lost. But when she closed her eyes, all she could see was that child's green eyes, the exact shade of her own son's. And for the first time in years, she wondered if she'd really left the past behind. It rained all night after the interview. San Francisco rain had a way of lingering, clinging to windows, humming in the pipes, reminding you that some things didn't wash away no matter how hard you tried. Ava lay awake long after. Eli fell asleep beside her, watching the shadow of the city flicker across her ceiling. She told herself not to hope. Not again, but hope, like rain, seeped in through cracks you didn't know you had. By morning, her phone buzzed. Unknown number, Ms. Brooks. "This is Angela from Haltech Family Services. Mr. Hale would like to offer you the position. Are you available to start Monday?" Ava stared at the message for a long time. $5,000 a month, a roof over their heads, a future and a man she'd promised herself she'd never see again. Her fingers shook as she typed. Yes, Monday works. The weekend blurred into motion, packing boxes, explaining to Eli that they'd be living somewhere new for a while, trying not to sound as uncertain as she felt. "Is it far?" he asked. "Just a bus ride," she said. "Close to the ocean." He grinned. "Can we see whales?" "Maybe," she said softly. "If we're lucky." On Monday morning, Ava stood before the gate again, this time with 2 suitcases and a heart that wouldn't stay still. A housekeeper opened the door, a woman in her 60s, with kind eyes and silver hair tied neatly behind her head. "You must be Ms. Brooks," she said with a warm smile. "I'm Marianne. Come in, dear." Inside, the house looked different in daylight, less intimidating, almost alive. The smell of coffee and fresh bread filled the air. "Mr. Hale's at the office," Marianne said, leading her upstairs. "He left instructions for the boys' schedule. He's very particular about routine." Ava smiled faintly. "He always was." Marianne glanced at her curiously. "You knew him before?" Ava hesitated. "A long time ago." Marianne's eyes softened, as if she understood more than she should. "Then you know he wasn't always like this." Ben was in his playroom, a space bigger than Ava's entire apartment, full of toys arranged too neatly to have been played with often. He looked up from his coloring book as she entered. "Hi," she said gently. "Remember me?" He nodded. "You're the lady who came before." "That's right." She crouched beside him. "Can I see what you're drawing?" He turned the paper round. It was a house. Big windows, tall trees, a man and a boy standing by the water. Ava smiled. "That's beautiful." "That's me and Daddy," Ben said. "Mommy's in heaven." Ava froze. The words were said so simply, so casually. like something he'd practiced saying. She swallowed hard. She must have been very special. He nodded solemnly. Daddy says she liked the ocean. Ava blinked back the sudden sting in her eyes. Then we'll make sure you see it a lot, okay? He smiled. Okay. That evening, Lucas returned. Ava heard his footsteps before she saw him, firm, steady, the kind that made a room pause. He appeared at the doorway, tie loosened, hair slightly damp from the rain. Settling in, he asked. She nodded. Ben's asleep. He had dinner, bath, and story time. He's a good kid. Lucas's expression softened briefly. Yeah, he is. There was silence, heavy but not hostile, the kind that carried things unsaid. Finally, Ava spoke. I didn't know you had a child. He looked at her for a moment. Neither did I, until 2 years ago. She blinked. What do you mean? He leaned against the doorway, eyes distant. His mother died. It was complicated. Something flickered in his voice. Grief, maybe guilt. Ava wanted to ask more, but his gaze stopped her. I appreciate you taking the job, he said quietly. Ben doesn't trust easily. I'll do my best, she said. I know you will. His eyes met hers, steady, unreadable. That's why I hired you. Later, in the quiet of her new room, Ava unpacked slowly. Outside, the ocean murmured against the cliffs. She placed a framed photo on the nightstand, her and Eli, smiling at a street fair. Her son, her whole world. She thought of Ben's green eyes, Lucas's silence, and the strange ache that came from being near the past while hiding the most important truth of her life. If Lucas ever found out about Eli. She didn't finish the thought. Instead, she turned off the light, whispering into the dark, don't let him know. Not yet, but in the next room, through the thin wall, Lucas sat awake too, staring at the same rain-soaked sky. And though neither of them knew it yet, the truth was already moving, like a tide that never stopped coming back. The house by the bay woke early. Sunlight broke across the water in long gold ribbons, spilling into the glass-walled living room. The tide hissed below the cliffs, steady, hypnotic dot. Ava got used to the rhythm quickly. 6:30, Ben woke. 7 o'clock, breakfast, cartoons, a small fight over which shirt had the best dinosaurs. 8:30 school. Then silence until afternoon. It should have been peaceful, but there was something about the quiet that felt rehearsed, as if even the waves were following instructions. Marianne helped her settle into the flow of the household. The older woman seemed to know everything without saying much. When Lucas would be home, what Ben refused to eat, which rooms were off limits. One morning, while folding laundry, Ava asked, do you ever get used to all this space? Marianne smiled wistfully. You stop seeing it after a while. Big houses just mean more places to miss people in. Ava nodded, fingers pausing over a tiny shirt. He doesn't talk about her, does he? Marianne shook her head. Never by name. Only that she loved the sea. The same words Ben had said. Ava looked toward the window, where the waves glimmered endless, restless, like a secret no one had the courage to tell. When Lucas was home, the energy shifted. He moved through rooms like a storm bottled into a man, precise, controlled, but dangerous if touched. He worked mostly in his study, but sometimes Ava caught glimpses. Sleeves rolled, tie loosened, eyes fixed on a screen full of numbers and plans she couldn't understand. Once, she brought Ben in to say goodnight. Lucas looked up, softened immediately, and knelt to hug his son. "Dream about something good," he said, "like dinosaurs." Lucas smiled faintly. "Maybe not the fire-breathing kind." Ben giggled, running off. That as Ava turned to leave, Lucas said quietly, "He likes you." She stopped. "I like him too." His gaze lingered, unreadable. "He hasn't liked anyone in a long time." Ava didn't know what to say, so she smiled, small, fragile, and closed the door behind her. That night, rain came in hard, drumming against the roof. Ava was reading to Ben when her phone buzzed. The name on the screen made her heart clench. "Eli." "Hey, sweetheart," she whispered, stepping into the hallway. "It's late. You okay?" "I miss you," his small voice said. "I miss you too, baby." "Did you brush your teeth?" He giggled, unhung. "Mom, guess what?" Ms. Carla said my drawing looked like a real rocket ship. Ava smiled through the ache. "That's amazing. I can't wait to see it." From the corner of her eye movement, Lucas in the hallway, barefoot, holding a file, frozen mid-step. Their eyes met. "Who's that?" he asked quietly. She ended the call quickly. "Just someone from home." He didn't move. "Someone." She forced a smile. "My friend's kid? I promised I'd check in." Lucas studied her face for a long moment, too long, then nodded once and walked away. Her heart didn't slow down for hours. The next day, something changed. Lucas invited her and Ben to join him for lunch in the garden, a rare gesture. The air smelled of lemon and sea salt. Ben chased butterflies while Lucas poured coffee. "You're good with him," he said. Ava shrugged. "Kids like attention. He just needs time." Lucas looked at her. "And you seem to have a lot of it." She frowned. Meaning, he said evenly. "You keep things separate. Work, home. Phone calls, you end too fast." Ava stiffened. "Are you checking on me?" He leaned back, voiced calm. "I protect my son." She met his eyes, anger flaring through fear. "And I protect mine," she blurted, before realizing what she'd said. Silence. Lucas's expression shifted surprise, confusion, something else. Then he stood. "I appreciate honesty, Ava, just not surprises." He walked back toward the house, leaving her alone with the wind and the sound of Ben laughing in the distance. That evening, Ava found a photo frame on the hallway table, one she hadn't noticed before. It was a picture of Lucas holding Ben as a baby, both smiling. The space beside him was blurred, the mother's face digitally erased, leaving only the faint outline of her hair against the sea. She touched the glass lightly. There was grief in that absence, but also guilt, and something worse. Choice. "Mummy." Ben's small voice came behind her. Ava froze. "What did you just?" He pointed at the photo. "That's Mummy's picture. Daddy took her away." Her throat went dry. "What do you mean, sweetie?" Ben looked down, whispering. "He said she wanted to go, but I think she didn't." Ava crouched beside him, her heart heavy. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes." He looked up at her. "Do you?" She smiled faintly, eyes shining. "Every day." That night, when the house went quiet, Ava stood by the window watching the bay. Her phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. "Does he know about the boy yet?" She froze. Another text followed. "If not, he will." Secrets don't stay buried long, not in that house. The number disappeared after that. She stared into the darkness, waves crashing far below. Somewhere behind her, Lucas's door opened. His voice came low, unreadable. Ava, she turned, startled. He was standing in the hallway, silhouette sharp against the light. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Yes," she lied. But both of them knew it wasn't. For the next few days, the house carried a strange silence, not the calm kind, but the careful one. Ava and Lucas moved around each other like dancers, pretending they weren't part of the same song. Meals were short, conversations shorter, but sometimes, when she caught him looking at her across the table, the way his eyes lingered, searching for something he couldn't name, she felt the ground tilt beneath her again. One afternoon, Ben came home from school with a fever. Ava sat by his bedside, damp cloth on his forehead, whispering stories until his breathing steadied. When she stepped out, she found Lucas waiting in the hallway, his face tight with worry. "How bad is it?" he asked. "Nothing serious. Just exhaustion," she said softly. "He'll be fine by morning." He exhaled, rubbing his jaw. "I don't know what I'd do if he stopped himself," voice breaking slightly. "Never mind." Ava wanted to reach out, to tell him he didn't have to carry it alone, whatever it was, but she didn't. Some walls were older than love. Later that night, while tidying up the living room, she noticed the door to Lucas's study slightly ajar. The faint light spilling out painted a thin line across the floor. She hesitated, then pushed it open. Inside, the air was thick with paper and cedar, the scent of thought and memory. On the desk, among the files, sat a small wooden box. Curiosity, reckless and human, guided her hand. Inside were photographs, dozens, maybe hundreds. Lucas at company events. Lucas with his team. Lucas and a woman by the sea, the same erased figure from the hallway picture. Except this one hadn't been edited yet. Ava's breath caught. The woman's face was half turned toward the sun, laughing. Her hair was shorter, her smile familiar in a way that made Ava's stomach twist. But what froze her wasn't the face. It was the faint birthmark near the collarbone, a small crescent shape, the same as hers. She barely heard the footsteps until it was too late. "What are you doing in here?" Lucas's voice was low, cold. Ava turned, heart hammering. "I was Ben's blanket, I thought." He walked forward, stopping inches from her. "Don't lie to me." The air between them hummed with tension. She could smell the rain on his jacket, the faint trace of whiskey. Her voice trembled. "You were the one who erased her face, weren't you?" His jaw tightened. "That's none of your concern." "But it is," she said quietly. "Because she swallowed. She looks like me." He stared at her, eyes sharp, almost accusing. "What are you implying?" "Nothing," she whispered. I shouldn't have looked." Lucas took a step closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "You shouldn't have come back." The words hit her like a slap. He realized it the moment he said it, the regret flashing across his face. "I didn't mean," he began. Ava nodded quickly, throat tight. "It's fine. I'll stay out of your way." She brushed past him, the warmth of his sleeve grazing hers, and fled before he could say anything else. Back in her room, Ava pressed her back to the door, trying to breathe. Her phone buzzed again, the same unknown number. "You found the photo, didn't you?" Her heart lurched. He doesn't know yet, but he will. The boy deserves his father. Her hands shook. Who was this? How did they know? She typed, "Who are you?" No reply. Just the soft hum of the ocean through the open window. The next morning, Lucas didn't come down for breakfast. Marianne said he'd left early for meetings. Ben was feeling better, full of energy, unaware of the quiet war beginning around him. While washing dishes, Ava noticed a shadow move outside, someone near the gate. She stepped closer to the window. A man in a dark coat stood there, facing the house. Then, seeing her, he turned and disappeared down the hill. Ava's pulse raced. She grabbed her phone, snapping a photo through the glass, blurry, distant, but real. She sent it to the unknown number with a single message. "Is this you?" 3 dots appeared, then vanished, and finally, a reply. "No, but he sent me." She felt cold all over. That night, Lucas returned late again. Ava met him at the door, the words tumbling out before she could think. "There was someone outside today," she said. Watching the house, he froze. "Did you call the police?" "No, I didn't know if next time you call me first," he said sharply. "Always." She nodded. "Who would be watching you, Lucas?" He didn't answer right away. Then quietly, "Someone who doesn't like being forgotten." Before she could ask what that meant, Ben appeared at the stairs, half asleep. Lucas scooped him up gently, carrying him back upstairs. His silhouette framed by the hallway light, strong but burdened. Ava watched them go, her chest heavy with questions she couldn't ask. And outside, beyond the glass, the bay shimmered, beautiful, silent and full of secrets. The fog rolled in thick that morning, swallowing the bay hole. From the kitchen window, Ava could barely see the garden, just outlines, the lemon trees, the swing, the iron gate that felt closer every day. Marianne hummed softly while making coffee. "You look pale, dear." Ava forced a smile. "Didn't sleep much. Nightmares?" "Something like that." Marianne gave her a knowing look. "Whatever it is, don't let it eat you alive. Secrets have sharp teeth." Ava froze, the words striking deeper than they should. "What do you mean?" The older woman smiled faintly. Just an old woman talking too much before her caffeine. But Ava couldn't shake the feeling that Marianne knew something or someone. Ben's laughter cut through the fog. He was running through the yard with his toy plane, cheeks pink from the cold. Ava watched him, heart swelling and breaking. He looked so much like Eli at that age, it hurt to breathe. Same stubborn grin, same dimple when he laughed. She closed her eyes, whispering to herself, "Don't compare. Don't slip." But then the thought came, uninvited. What if Lucas saw it too? By afternoon, Lucas still hadn't come home. He'd been distant all week, shorter texts, longer hours. That evening, when Ava went to leave Ben's room, she noticed the study door half open again. Light spilled across the floor, her stomach knotted. Part of her wanted to turn back. Another part, the one still haunted by that photo, pushed her forward, inside. Lucas sat behind his desk, staring at his laptop. The glow lit the hard lines of his face. Beautiful, cold, exhausted. "I didn't mean to interrupt," Ava said softly. He looked up, eyes unreadable. "You didn't. I was just finishing something." There was something in his tone to calm, too deliberate. He turned the laptop around. On the screen, a hospital record. Name: Eli Brooks' mother, Ava Brooks. Date of birth, 6 years ago. Same month she'd vanished from everyone's radar. her breath caught. She couldn't move. Lucas's voice was steady, but his knuckles were white. How long were you going to hide this? Her throat locked. Lucas, please, he stood abruptly. Is he mine? The question hung between them, heavy as thunder. Tears blurred her vision. You don't understand, then help me, he snapped. Help me understand how the woman he stopped himself. Jaw tightening, how you disappear, and 6 years later, I find this. Her voice broke. I was scared, Lucas. Of what? Me. Of losing him. The silence that followed was brutal. Only the rain outside dared to speak. Finally, Lucas's voice dropped, low and raw. I would have taken care of both of you. Ava shook her head. No, you wouldn't have. You were gone. You left with no word. I had nothing. I was protecting you, he said sharply. There were people, business, family things you don't know. Then you should have trusted me. He looked away, breathing hard. I thought I was doing the right thing. So did I. Their eyes met, two wounded mirrors, reflecting back 6 years of silence. She stepped closer, voice trembling. Eli's a good boy. Smart, kind. He deserves to know who he is. But not like this. Lucas's expression softened for a moment, then hardened again. You should have told me, Ava. I wanted to, she whispered. Every day. But you built this life, this world I didn't belong to anymore. He moved closer, eyes dark with something between anger and ache. You belonged here more than anyone ever did. For a second, just a second, the years fell away. The rooms seemed to shrink around them, air thick with everything they'd lost. Her voice cracked. Don't do this. Do what? Make me remember. Before either could say another word, the intercom buzzed. Marianne's voice came through, shaking. Mr. Hale, there's a man at the gate asking for Miss Brooks. Lucas frowned. At this hour. Ava's blood ran cold. Tell her not to. The front door slammed open downstairs. Footsteps, then a shout. Lucas was already moving. Stay here, Lucas. But she followed anyway, down the stairs, 2 at a time. At the foyer, a man stood dripping from the rain. Eyes wild, the same dark coat from before. He pointed at Ava. He deserves to know, Miss Brooks. The boy deserves his father. Lucas stepped between them instantly. Who the hell are you? The man sneered. Someone who knows the cost of your secrets. He turned and vanished into the rain before Lucas could reach him. For a long moment, only the storm spoke. Lucas turned to her, face pale, voice low. Who was that? Ava's lips trembled. Someone who doesn't forgive. His gaze searched hers, as if trying to find a truth he already feared. Finally, he said quietly, I'm not letting this go. I know, she whispered. And neither can I. That night, Ava couldn't sleep. She stood by the window, watching the waves crash below the cliffs, thinking about the man in the rain, the voice that knew her secret in the distance. Lightning flashed, illuminating the house that no longer felt like safety. Eli's face swam in her mind. Lucas's too. And for the first time, she realized, no matter how much she loved one, the truth might destroy them both. The storm came without warning by late afternoon. The sky over the bay turned the color of iron. Wind whipped against the windows, and rain fell sideways, furious, relentless. Marianne had gone to stay with her sister inland. The roads were already flooding. That left only Ava, Lucas, and Ben inside the glass house that suddenly felt too fragile for secrets this heavy. Ben was drawing in the living room, humming quietly, oblivious to the tension in the air. Ava watched him from the kitchen, her fingers tight around the edge of the counter. Lucas stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, voice sharp over the thunder. "No," I said. "Delay the shipment until the storm passes. Yes, I'll deal with it personally." He hung up, shoulders stiff. "Work can wait," Ava said softly. "You should rest." He turned, eyes dark. "Rest? After what you dropped on me?" She flinched. "I didn't drop it. You found it. And you would have kept it that way, right?" His voice rose, then cracked. "You were just going to keep my son a secret forever." Ava swallowed, blinking back tears. "He's not just your son, Lucas. He's mine too. And for 5 years, I was the only one there." He closed his eyes briefly, rain pounding the glass behind him. I missed his first words, his first steps. "Do you have any idea what that feels like?" Her voice trembled. "Do you have any idea what I went through to keep him safe?" He looked at her sharply. "From what? From me? From your world," she whispered. "From everything that could have taken him away." Lightning tore the sky open. The house flickered, lights dimming for a moment. Ben looked up, eyes wide. "Mummy Ava, the lights." Ava forced a smile. "It's okay, sweetheart. Just thunder saying hello." Lucas froze. "Mummy Ava, dot." He turned slowly toward her. "He calls you that." Her breath caught. He just started. It doesn't mean he stepped closer. He doesn't call anyone else that. What does he know, Ava? "Nothing," she said quickly. "Please." The lights flickered again, and then the power went out completely. Darkness swallowed the room, broken only by the lightning beyond the windows. Ben whimpered. "It's scary." Ava knelt beside him. "It's just a storm, honey." Lucas's voice came from the dark. "Go pack a bag. The cliffs might flood." She hesitated. "We'll be fine here. Do it," he said, tone brooking, no argument. 10 minutes later, she was in her room, gathering a few clothes and Eli's photo from the nightstand. As she turned, Lucas appeared at the door, flashlight cutting across his face. "Who was that man?" he demanded. "The one at the gate." "I don't know," she said. "He's been texting me, threatening to tell you." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't know if I could trust you." He exhaled harshly. "You still think I'd hurt you?" "No," she said quietly. "I think you already did." For a moment, neither spoke. The storm outside screamed through the trees. Then, from downstairs, a crash. Ben's scream cut through the thunder. "Daddy!" They both ran. The living room window had blown open, rain pouring in. The curtains whipped like ghosts. Ben was standing by the door, pointing outside. "There's someone out there." Lucas grabbed a flashlight, aiming it through the storm. A figure moved near the gate, the same man in the dark coat. "Stay with him," Lucas shouted, and bolted into the rain. "Lucas, wait." Ava called, but he was already gone. The wind howled, slamming the door shut behind him. Minutes crawled like hours. Ava held Ben close, whispering over the roar. "It's okay, baby. He'll be back soon." But she could barely hear her own voice over the pounding rain and her racing pulse. Something inside her said this storm wasn't just weather. It was everything they'd tried to hide. Finally breaking loose, then came the sound metal, breaking glass, the screech of tires. Ava's blood turned to ice. She grabbed a coat and ran into the storm. The wind cut like knives, rain blinding her eyes. She followed the light from the driveway. The car had crashed against the gate, hood crushed, steam hissing into the air. Lucas was on the ground, struggling to stand. The man in the coat was gone. "Lucas," she screamed, slipping through the mud to reach him. He looked up, blood streaking his temple. "Ben," he gasped. "Is he? He's safe," she said, dropping to her knees beside him. "Don't move." He gripped her wrist. "You have to tell him, Ava. He deserves to know." "Not now," she cried. "You're hurt." "I can't lose him again," he whispered, voice breaking. "Not both of you." Thunder roared overhead as she pressed her forehead against his, tears mixing with rain. "You're not going to lose us," she said fiercely. "Not this time." The ambulance lights painted the night red and blue. Paramedics lifted Lucas onto a stretcher, the storm still raging around them. Ava held Ben close as they watched him disappear into the flashing light. "Is Daddy going to be okay?" Ben asked. Ava brushed his hair back, voice steady though her heart was falling apart. "He will be, I promise." But as the sirens faded into the distance, she knew promises meant nothing until the truth came out. And tomorrow, when the rain stopped, everything would change. Hospitals never really slept. They just hummed differently after midnight. Monitors beeped like small, fragile heartbeats. Footsteps echoed in the hallways like ghosts that refused to leave. Ava sat in the plastic chair beside the bed, her clothes still damp from the storm. Lucas lay pale beneath the fluorescent lights, his arm bandaged, a faint bruise darkening his temple. He was breathing steadily now, slow, deep, alive, for the first time in days. Ava allowed herself to exhale. Ben had fallen asleep in the waiting room, curled beneath Marianne's coat. The older woman had driven through half-flooded streets to get there, her face lined with worry and relief. "They said he's lucky," Marianne whispered. "Another inch, and that car would have gone straight into the ravine." Ava nodded numbly, staring at the rise and fall of his chest. "He's always been lucky," she murmured, "and stubborn. Some men survive because someone's still waiting for them," Marianne said softly. "That's not luck. That's love." Ava didn't answer. She didn't have the strength to. When Lucas woke, it was nearly dawn. His eyes fluttered open, hazy at first, then sharp. He looked around the room, frowning, disoriented. "Where?" His voice cracked. "You're at St. Mark's," Ava said gently. "You've been here since last night." The storm, he blinked at her, confusion flickering across his face. "Who are you?" Her breath caught. "It's me, Ava." He hesitated, studying her like someone trying to piece together a half-remembered dream. The recognition didn't come, only a faint crease between his brows. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Don't remember." The doctor explained later. Temporary memory loss, common after a concussion. He might recover fully in days, or not at all. Ava nodded through the words, but her mind spun elsewhere. He didn't remember her. He didn't remember Eli. He didn't remember anything that could hurt them both. And for a terrifying moment, she wondered if this was mercy or punishment. Over the next few days, she stayed by his side, pretending it was just part of her job, feeding him soup, adjusting his pillows, helping him walk down the hall. Sometimes he'd glance at her, eyes softening as if something stirred behind them. "You look familiar," he'd say. Ava would smile faintly. "Maybe you've just seen me in a dream." He'd chuckle, then wince at the pain in his ribs. If it's a dream, it's a good one. And every time he said it, something inside her broke and healed all at once. One evening, as the sky outside the hospital turned pink. Ava found Ben sitting quietly by the window with a coloring book. "Can I see Daddy soon?" he asked. "Maybe tomorrow," she said. "He needs rest. Can I tell him about my rocket ship?" Ava smiled. "You can tell him anything you want." He looked up at her, eyes bright. "Even that I love him?" Her throat tightened. "Especially that." He nodded, content, and went back to coloring a stick figure family under a blue sky. A man, a woman, a child, all holding hands. The caption, written in a child's uneven letters, read, "Me and Mummy, Ava and Daddy." Later that night, Ava stepped outside for air. The rain had stopped. The city smelled clean, new, almost. She tilted her face toward the sky, eyes closed. Then her phone buzzed. A notification. Breaking news. Heltech CEO hospitalized after car crash. Her stomach dropped. She opened the article. The headline photo showed Lucas being wheeled into the ambulance, and behind him, blurred but unmistakable, her holding Ben's hand, her breath caught. The caption read, "Unidentified woman and child accompany Heltech CEO to hospital after late-night accident." She scrolled, but the comments hit first. "Is that his wife? The kid looks like him. Secret family." Her hands went cold. It had begun. Inside, Lucas stirred in his bed. Marianne rushed in, whispering urgently, "Ava, the press found out. They're outside. Reporters." Ava's chest tightened. "How? I don't know. Someone leaked it." Ava closed her eyes. "The man in the rain. The texts. The warnings he sent me." She whispered, "It's him. He's not done." Marianne asked. Ava looked toward Lucas's room where he slept. Peaceful, unaware that the world outside had just discovered his biggest secret. "The past," she said quietly. "He's come back." By morning, the hospital entrance was surrounded by cameras. Flashes burst like lightning each time a nurse passed by. Inside, Ava sat beside Lucas, trying to keep her voice steady as he stirred awake again. He blinked at her, confusion mixing with calm. "Why are there people outside?" "They're here for you," she said softly. "You're kind of famous, remember?" He smiled faintly. "And you?" Her heart caught. "What about me?" He hesitated. "Are you the reason it feels like I've known you forever?" Her breath trembled. "Maybe," she whispered, "or maybe it's just the rain." By the third day after the crash, the rain had stopped, but the noise hadn't. The hospital lobby buzzed with reporters. Lenses pressed against the glass, waiting for a story that smelled like scandal. Every screen in the cafeteria carried the same headline: Heltech CEO's hidden family. Mystery woman and child in hospital photo identified. Ava kept her head down, cap pulled low, hoodie zipped. The nurse at the reception smiled sadly as she passed. Everyone knew, or thought they did. In Lucas's room, the blinds were drawn. He sat up now, recovering faster than anyone expected. But there was still something fragile about him, like a man balancing on the edge of memory. Ava placed a tray on his table. "You should eat," he smiled faintly. "You keep saying that, because you keep forgetting." He chuckled, then winced, pressing a hand to his ribs. "Guess I deserve that." She started to turn away, but his voice stopped her. "Hey, Ava," he said her name like it was something he used to whisper in another life. She looked up. "Were we?" He hesitated, searching her face. "Close." The words landed softly, but they felt like thunder in her chest. "Yes," she said after a beat. "Once," he nodded slowly. "That explains the way you look at me." Her throat tightened. "And how's that?" "Like you're waiting for me to remember something terrible and beautiful at the same time." That afternoon, Marianne slipped into the room holding a newspaper. Her face was pale. "Ava," she whispered, "you need to see this." She unfolded the front page. There it was, the photo. Not the one Ava had found in Lucas's office. A different one. The original, Lucas, younger, smiling, standing on a beach. Beside him, Ava, visibly pregnant, her arms around his waist, the wind in her hair, her face full of a happiness that now felt like a ghost. And below it, a caption that stole her breath. The missing piece of the Heltec story, the woman he left behind, her vision blurred. Where did they get this? "Someone sent it to the press," Marianne said. "Anonymous source." Lucas's voice came from behind them. "Let me see." Ava froze. "Lucas, no," but he'd already taken the paper. His eyes scanned it slowly. His hand trembled. "I remember this day," he said softly. "It was Monterey. You laughed because I couldn't start the fire pit." Ava's heart stopped. He looked up at her, confusion and pain mixing in his eyes. "We were together." She nodded, tears threatening. "You loved me, and you were," he swallowed hard. "You were pregnant." "Yes." He shut his eyes, his jaw tightening as memory hit like lightning. "Eli." Ava covered her mouth, silent sobs shaking her shoulders. Lucas opened his eyes again, and for the first time since the crash, he looked at her not as a stranger, but as the man she once knew. His voice broke. "He's mine." Ava nodded through tears. "He's ours." The room went quiet, except for the distant hum of hospital machines. Lucas leaned back, covering his face with his hands. "I missed everything." Ava reached for his wrist. "You didn't choose that. None of it was your fault." He dropped his hands, looking at her, raw and open. "But you did. You chose to leave." "I had to," she whispered. "There were people watching you, Lucas. Someone threatened me. They said if I stayed, you'd lose everything." His expression darkened. "Who? I don't know. He sent letters. Money told me to disappear." He clenched his fists. "And you believed him?" "I believed in protecting my child." For a moment, silence again, thick, trembling. Then he said quietly, "I would have protected you both." Ava looked away, eyes wet. "You were 23, Lucas. You could barely protect yourself." Later that night, after Lucas fell asleep, Ava sat alone in the visitor's lounge, watching the rain start again outside. She couldn't shake the image of that newspaper photo. Someone wanted it public. Someone wanted chaos. Her phone buzzed. The same unknown number. "I told you, secrets don't stay buried. Next time, I won't just send photos." Ava's heart pounded. She typed back, "Who are you?" No reply. But a few seconds later, another message appeared. "He thinks he remembers everything." "He doesn't." She stared at the screen, ice crawling down her spine. "What do you mean?" She wrote. This time, the reply came fast. "Because the boy in the picture isn't Ben." The phone slipped from her hand, hitting the floor with a dull sound. She stood frozen, staring at nothing, her breath shallow. Then she turned toward the hallway, toward Lucas's room, where the truth, whatever it was, waited like a sleeping storm ready to wake. Lucas woke before dawn. The hospital was still, that eerie, sacred quiet right before the city begins to move again. For the first time since the accident, his mind was clear. To clear. Every sound, every shadow seemed sharper than it should be. He sat up slowly, his ribs aching, and reached for the phone on the nightstand. No missed calls, no texts. But something in him whispered that the world outside his room was already changing, with or without his permission. Down the hall, Ava was talking to a detective. Her voice was low, tense. "He's been texting me for weeks," she said. "He knows things about my son, about Lucas." The detective nodded, jotting notes. "We traced the number. Burner phone. Bought in Oakland. Paid cash. Can you find him?" "We're trying. But if what you're saying is true, Miss Brooks, this isn't just harassment. This is targeted." Ava nodded, clutching her coat tight. Her stomach churned with guilt and fear, not just for herself, but for Lucas and for the boy sleeping at Marianne's house. By the time she returned to the room, Lucas was awake, reading something on his tablet. He looked up. "You told the police?" She froze. "You know, I saw the detective leave." He closed the tablet, eyes steady. "I'm glad you did." His calm scared her more than anger would have. "Lucas," she said quietly. "You should know I already do," he interrupted, sliding the tablet toward her. On the screen was a security photo, black and white, grainy but unmistakable. The man in the raincoat, and beside the image, a name, Ethan Hale. Ava frowned. Hale, like he nodded grimly. "My father's second son. My half-brother." He leaned back, rubbing his temples. "He vanished years ago after a corporate scandal. I thought he was in Europe, living off hush money." "I was wrong. What does he want?" Ava asked. "Power, revenge." Lucas's jaw tightened. "He always hated me, said I stole the life he should have had. And now he thinks he can take it back." Ava's voice trembled. "By using us." Lucas's gaze met hers, sharp and haunted. "By using you." He stood slowly, ignoring the pain in his ribs. "I need to go home. I need files, records. There's something about that photo, something off. You're not cleared to leave." "I wasn't cleared to survive that crash either," he said quietly. "But here we are." Ava exhaled, torn between anger and fear. "Then I'm coming with you." He hesitated, then nodded. "Fine, but stay close." The drive back to the Bay House was quiet, the road still slick from the night rain. The ocean glittered grey under the pale morning light, deceptively calm. Inside the house smelled of damp wood and salt. It felt smaller now, less like a fortress, more like a memory. Lucas went straight to his study, pulling out drawers, flipping through folders. Ava stood by the window, watching the fog roll in again. "What are you looking for?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Birth records." She turned. "What?" He looked up. "You said the man who threatened you knew about Eli, but he also knew something else. Something only someone at the hospital could know." Ava's heart pounded. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," he said slowly, "that the photo in the newspaper, the one from Monterey, there was another child in it. You were holding 2 blankets." She blinked. "No, that's not." He pulled out a faded manila envelope, sliding a sheet across the desk. "Hospital log, 6 years ago. 2 birth certificates were issued under your name." Her world tilted. "That's impossible, is it?" He said softly. You said you blacked out after the delivery. You said you woke up and they told you there was only one. Her voice broke. Lucas, he stood, moving closer, eyes full of something between grief and fury. They lied to you. They took one. Silence. Only the sea. Ava staggered back, shaking her head. No, no, I would have known. Lucas reached for her hands. He took him. Ava, Ethan. He must have. Her breath came fast, panic flaring. No, don't say that. Please don't. But even as she denied it, fragments began to surface. The hospital lights, the nurse's face she never saw again, the discharge papers that didn't make sense, the lullaby that stopped too soon. Tears burned her eyes. If that's true, where is he? Lucas's voice cracked. We'll find him. How? She whispered. He looked toward the bay, where the fog hid the horizon. By starting where it all went wrong. Later that evening, as they sat in the dim light of the study, Ava found herself staring at the photograph again, the one that had destroyed their peace. For the first time, she noticed something she hadn't before. In the corner of the frame, half blurred by sunlight, was a figure, a man watching them from the dunes. The same outline, the same coat. She showed it to Lucas. He was there. Even then, Lucas stared at the image, jaw clenched. He's been watching longer than we thought. The sound of the waves grew louder outside, almost violent. Ava whispered, if he took our son, what does he want now? Lucas looked at her, his expression softening, fear hidden beneath determination. He wants me to break, he said quietly. But he doesn't know you're what's keeping me whole. That night, long after the house went quiet, Ava lay awake, listening to the waves hit the rocks. She couldn't stop seeing that photograph, her smile, the twins in her arms, the shadow in the background. Somewhere out there, another child bore her face, her blood, her lullaby. And she knew then, with bone-deep certainty, this wasn't the end of the storm. It was only the eye. 2 days later, they left the house before dawn. The city still slept under a mist the color of steel. Lucas drove in silence, eyes fixed on the road, jaw set with quiet rage. Ava sat beside him, fingers twisting in her lap, clutching the printout he'd shown her, a student roster from St. Augustine Preparatory School, 40 miles inland. Among the names, one stood out. Ethan Brooks, age 5, the same birth date as Eli. Ava's pulse wouldn't slow. If this is true, Lucas's voice was low, controlled. Then our son's been living under another name for 5 years. St. Augustine stood on a hill surrounded by redwoods. The kind of school where legacy names opened doors and money kept questions quiet. At the gate, a guard in a navy jacket asked for identification. Lucas Hale, he said, showing his license. I called ahead about a potential enrollment issue. The man glanced at the ID, then waved them through. Headmistress' office is straight down the hall. The drive up the cobblestone path felt endless. The school itself looked like something out of a painting. Ivy-covered, perfect, cold. A place built for secrets. Inside, the headmistress, a tall woman with sharp glasses and a voice like glass, smiled politely. How may we help you, Mr. Hale? Lucas glanced at Ava, then back at her. We believe there's been a mistake regarding a student's records. A boy named Ethan Brooks. The woman stiffened slightly. I'm afraid student files are confidential. This is about custody, he said. And safety. Ava pulled out the hospital paperwork, her hands trembling. I'm his mother. The headmistress frowned, scanning the document. I see, this is highly irregular. Lucas leaned forward. So is kidnapping. After a long pause, the woman sighed. Wait here. When she left the room, Ava pressed her palms to her eyes, whispering, I can't believe this. Lucas placed a hand over hers. We'll find him. Her voice shook. What if he doesn't remember me? He will, Lucas said softly. Children remember love, even when the world tries to rewrite it. A few minutes later, the door opened again, and there he was, a small boy, brown curls, dark eyes, dressed in a school uniform too neat for his age. He looked at them curiously, tilting his head. You're not my teacher. Ava's breath hitched. Sweetheart. The boy blinked, polite but distant. Do I know you? She stepped forward, kneeling. Not yet, she whispered, voice breaking. But you will. Lucas stood frozen, every muscle tight. The resemblance was undeniable. Eli's twin in every way, down to the small scar above his eyebrow. The headmistress returned. This is Ethan Brooks. His guardian, Mr. Ethan Hale, handles all communication. Lucas's jaw clenched. When does he pick him up? At 3, she said cautiously. Mr. Hale doesn't like surprises. Ava met Lucas's gaze, the unspoken plan passing between them. They left the school quietly, but neither spoke during the drive back. By the time they reached the bay, the sky had darkened again, not rain this time, just the heavy kind of cloud that feels like waiting. Lucas stopped the car in the driveway, gripping the steering wheel. He's alive, Ava. He's real. Her tears came silently. I held him once. Just once. They told me he was gone. Lucas turned to her. We'll get him back. How? She whispered. Ethan's powerful. If we go to court, it'll take months, maybe years. Then we don't go to court. She stared at him. Lucas, he looked straight ahead, voice steady. We go to him. That night, the house was too quiet. Ben was asleep upstairs. Marianne had taken Eli for the weekend to keep him safe. Ava stood by the window, staring at the reflection of her own face, the same reflection she'd seen in her son's. Then the doorbell rang. Lucas appeared beside her, tense. He opened the door. Ethan Hale stood there, dry despite the fog, wearing the same coat as before. Well, he said smoothly, you finally figured it out. Ava's heart pounded. Where is he? Ethan smiled. Safe, happier than he'd ever be with either of you. Lucas's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. You stole a child. Stole? Ethan laughed. No, brother. I saved him. You were never meant to have a family. You break everything you touch. Why? Lucas demanded. Why do this? Ethan stepped forward, eyes gleaming. Because our father gave you everything, the company, the name, the inheritance. I took the only thing left you could love. The words landed like bullets. Ava trembled. You used our son to hurt him. He turned to her, voice soft, venomous. I used him to make things right. Lucas lunged, but Ethan stepped back, pulling something from his coat, a flash drive security footage. He said coolly, from the hospital. You'd be surprised what people keep when they're paid well. Try taking me to court, and the whole world sees what you did, covering up your affair with a college dropout nanny, while engaged to the daughter of a senator. Lucas froze. Ava stared at him, realization dawning. You were engaged. He didn't answer, but the silence was enough. Ethan smiled. Exactly. Everyone loves a scandal. Good luck explaining that to your board, Lucas. He turned, walking back into the fog, his voice fading. I'll be in touch. The door shut behind him, leaving only the sound of Ava's uneven breath. She stepped back, shaking her head. You were engaged. It was an arrangement, Lucas said quickly. Before you, it meant nothing, but it mattered, she whispered. It mattered enough to hide me, to hide us. He moved closer. Ava, don't, she said, voice breaking. Not now. I can't do this. She turned and walked up the stairs, leaving him alone in the quiet. The photograph still glowing faintly on the desk behind him. The one that had started it all. Outside, the fog thickened over the bay, swallowing the lights one by one, somewhere inland. In a room neither of them could see, a boy with Ava's eyes drew two stick figures, one tall, one smiling, and wrote beneath them in shaky letters, Mummy, Daddy. Someday. The bay was silent before dawn, a sheet of silver glass stretching endlessly into the fog. The kind of silence that always came before something broke. Lucas stood on the balcony, phone pressed to his ear. He wants to meet, he said quietly. Tonight, at the old Hale warehouse. Ava, standing in the doorway, felt her stomach twist. Alone, he insisted, her voice caught. It's a trap, I know. He turned toward, her eyes dark with exhaustion and resolve. But if it means ending this, I'll walk into it. You don't have to, she whispered. We can call the police. He's my brother, Lucas said. No one else can stop him. Downstairs, Marianne packed Ben's bag in silence. She'd already called a friend to take the boy inland until things settled. When Ava knelt to hug him goodbye, he clung tighter than usual. Are you coming too, Mummy, Ava? Her voice trembled. Soon, sweetheart, I promise. He looked up, eyes wide and trusting. Daddy too. She hesitated, then smiled, forcing it. Daddy too. By the time night fell, the fog was thicker than rain. Lucas drove alone to the docks, headlights cutting through mist like blades. The old Heltec warehouse sat at the water's edge, long abandoned, its windows shattered, its roof sagging under decades of salt and wind. Inside, Ethan was waiting, immaculate as always, a ghost who'd never aged. Right on time, he said, smirking. You always were predictable. Lucas stepped forward slowly. Where is he? Ethan tilted his head. Who? The son you ignored, or the one you don't deserve? Don't play with me. Oh, I'm not playing, Ethan said softly. I'm winning. He tossed a tablet onto a crate between them. The screen flickered on, live footage. A small room. A boy sleeping in bed, Eli. Lucas's pulse roared in his ears. What do you want? An exchange, Ethan said. My rightful shares of Heltec reinstated. Full control of the board. You walk away, take your nanny and your picture-perfect lie of a family, and disappear. And if I don't? Ethan smiled faintly. Then I destroy you, again. Meanwhile, Ava couldn't stay still. Something inside her refused to let Lucas face Ethan alone. She'd put Ben on the road with Marianne, then turned the car back toward the bay, headlights carving through fog. Every instinct screamed she was making a mistake, but love doesn't listen to reason when it smells like danger. She reached the warehouse, just as thunder rolled far out over the water. The door hung open. Inside, the sound of two voices, low, sharp, brittle. "Do you even remember what he looked like?" Ethan sneered. "The twin you lost. You buried him with your ambition." Lucas's jaw clenched. "You took him. You turned him into your weapon." "I gave him a life," Ethan hissed. "One without you poisoning him with your perfect father act. He deserves the truth." "So do I," Ethan spat. "You think you're the only one he loved? You think our father didn't promise me everything before you were even born?" Lucas took a slow breath. "He used both of us, Ethan. You just never stopped letting him." Ethan's hand trembled as he reached into his coat. For a moment, Lucas thought he might pull a gun, but instead, he threw a small flash drive onto the floor. "Go ahead," Ethan said. "See what truth really looks like." Ava stepped from the shadows. "Don't." Both men froze. "Ava," Lucas said, shocked. "What are you doing here?" She ignored him, turning to Ethan. "You want power? Take it. Just give me the children." Ethan stared at her, and for a fleeting second, something human flickered in his eyes. "You still think you're the hero, don't you?" "I'm a mother," she said. "That's all I've ever been." Ethan smiled sadly. "That's what she said too." Ava frowned. "Who? Your nurse?" Ethan murmured. "The one who took the baby from your arms. She was paid, but she couldn't live with it. She called me before she died. Told me where to find him." His eyes darkened. "I didn't steal him, Ava. I saved him." Lucas stepped forward, voice tight. "By lying. By letting her believe her child was dead." Ethan's voice cracked. "He was dead to you. That's what our father wanted. He wanted to erase you both. I just followed orders." The words hit like a storm. Ava staggered back, whispering, "Your father. He planned this." Ethan nodded. "He wanted one heir, one clean name for Haltech. You didn't fit the image." Lucas's hands curled into fists. "He's dead, Ethan. This ends now." "Maybe," Ethan said softly. "But ghosts don't stay buried, and neither do sins." The thunder cracked overhead, shaking the rafters. Ethan turned, heading for the door. "You'll find your son where he belongs," he said. "But you won't like what he's become." Then he was gone, swallowed by fog and night. Lucas dropped to his knees, grabbing the flash drive from the floor. Ava knelt beside him, trembling. "What's on it?" He met her eyes, voice rough. "The rest of the truth." Back at the house, the drive played out on the big screen, grainy footage from the hospital 6 years ago, a nurse handing a crying infant to a man in a dark coat. Not Ethan, their father, the same man who'd built Haltech, the same man whose portrait still hung in the hall, a patriarch with a smile carved from stone. Ava covered her mouth, choking back tears. Lucas's voice broke. "He took him. He ordered it. And Ethan, he just carried it out." She turned to him, eyes fierce through the grief. "Then we end it. We take them back, both of them." Lucas looked at her, jaw trembling, and nodded. Together, outside, the fog began to lift. The first hint of sunrise bled over the bay, fragile, pink, alive. But even as light returned, the truth left a shadow neither of them could escape. 2 sons. 2 brothers. One father's sin binding them all. And in the quiet, after the storm, Ava whispered the only prayer she had left. Let the truth be enough to bring them home. The sun rose slow over the bay that morning, pale gold on a world washed clean by rain. Ava stood by the kitchen window. watching the light spill across the cliffs. For the first time in years, she wasn't running, wasn't hiding. But peace, she'd learned, didn't come just because the storm ended. It came when you accepted what the storm left behind. Lucas came down the stairs quietly, a small envelope in his hand. He looked different now, older maybe, or just lighter, like a man who'd finally put his ghosts down. "They confirmed it," he said. "The DNA test." Ava nodded slowly. "Eli and Ethan, they're twins," Lucas said softly. "Both ours." Her breath trembled. "Where is he?" Lucas smiled faintly. "Sleeping upstairs. Marianne brought him home last night. He's quiet, confused, but safe." Ava closed her eyes, tears spilling over. For the first time since the hospital 6 years ago, she could breathe without pain. "Thank you," she whispered. Lucas hesitated, then reached into the envelope and pulled out another sheet, a letter, yellowed and folded, with handwriting neither of them expected. "It was inside the flash drive," he said. "From my father." Ava took it carefully, reading the shaky script to the sons I wronged. "You both carry my blood. But only one of you carries my curse, the need to control everything you love until it turns to dust. I thought I could fix the future by erasing the past. I was wrong. If you're reading this, then the truth has found you. Let it end with me." She folded the letter back, voice breaking. He knew. Lucas nodded, and he was right. It ends here. Later that morning, the house was filled with small sounds, footsteps, laughter, the clatter of toys. Eli and Ben sat on the rug together, building towers from wooden blocks. Eli looked up, eyes curious. "Mummy, is this my brother?" Ava knelt between them, smiling through tears. "Yes, sweetheart. He's your brother," Ben grinned. "We can share toys now." Eli nodded solemnly. "And secrets." Ava laughed, a sound that felt strange and right at the same time. "No more secrets, okay?" Both boys nodded, their laughter echoing through the house like sunlight made into sound. Lucas watched from the doorway, silent, eyes shining. For a moment, it felt like the world had given them back everything it took. That evening, when the boys were asleep, Ava found Lucas on the porch, looking out at the dark water. The wind carried the scent of salt and pine. The sky was a deep blue fading into black. She sat beside him. "What happens now?" He exhaled slowly. "The board's a mess. The press won't stop calling. But none of it feels important anymore. And Ethan, he's gone," Lucas said quietly. "Left the country. Left everything. Maybe that's his way of making peace." Ava nodded. "Or running." He turned to her, voice soft. "We've all done enough running." Silence stretched between them. Not the kind that divides, but the kind that holds what words can't fix. Then Lucas said, "You could stay." Ava looked at him, heart twisting. "You don't have to say that." "I'm not saying it because I have to," he said. "I'm saying it because I can't imagine this house without you." Her eyes filled with tears. "Lucas, I know I don't deserve a second chance," he whispered. "But maybe we do." She stared at the sea, remembering everything, the lies, the loss, the love that refused to die. "You know what scared me most?" She said quietly, "Not losing you. Losing myself again." He reached for her hand. "Then don't. Stay as you are. And if you go, I'll still be here." Ava looked at their joined hands, her scarred working fingers against his clean, steady ones. For once, there was no anger left between them, only truth. The next morning, when Lucas woke, she was gone. No note, no goodbye, just the quiet sound of the sea and the faint smell of her perfume in the air. On the kitchen table lay two things: a photograph, the one from Monterey, now whole again, and a letter in her handwriting. Lucas, you gave me back my sons, and that's more than forgiveness. It's freedom. Don't chase me. Let me learn who I am again, not as your secret, but as their mother. If we find each other again someday, let it be because the tide brought us back, not because we couldn't let go. Ava. Lucas stood there for a long time, the morning light washing over him. Outside, the boys' laughter carried on the wind, and he smiled through tears. He whispered to no one, "Then I'll wait." Months later, on a quiet afternoon by the bay, a familiar figure stood by the cliffs, a woman in a linen dress, her hair caught by the wind. She looked back at the house. Two boys ran in the yard, one shouting for his brother, their voices bright against the sea. Ava smiled. Some storms don't end, she thought. They just change shape, turn into wind, into memory, into love that survives the wreckage. And then she whispered the words that had haunted her for 6 years. Finally, at peace, we're home.